My dear friends, I invite you to listen with your whole heart. We've been raised to believe that kindness holds the key to everything. That through love, patience, and understanding, even the deepest pain can be mended. That our love, if pure and persistent enough, will eventually guide others toward the light. But today I must share a truth that may feel uncomfortable, yet it is vital. You must stop offering your kindness to someone who only uses it against you. From childhood, we're told that being kind is always the right answer, that with enough love, patience, and understanding, we can fix even the most broken hearts. And while it's true, kindness can be transformative, building bridges and softening hearts, there's one sobering reality we tend to ignore. Kindness is powerless in the face of someone who has no desire to grow. A narcissist doesn't receive your kindness as affection. They see it as an opportunity. They perceive it as a tool to manipulate, to keep you bound to their toxic cycle. They twist your empathy into a leash, one you don't realize they're pulling. You pour your soul into them, praying that someday they'll wake up and see your worth. But that moment of recognition never arrives. Their universe isn't guided by appreciation. It revolves around domination. The more you offer, the more they devour without hesitation. And the moment you pull back, they weaponize guilt to reel you back in. You convince yourself that loving more deeply will earn their change. But the truth is, they've always known your heart, and that's exactly why they chose you. They saw that you were the type who would forgive, accommodate, and shrink for their comfort. To them, your kindness isn't sacred. It's a resource, a tool to ensure their control. Each time you let a wound go unaddressed, you silently teach them they can keep hurting you. They do not view your empathy as an invitation to evolve. They see it as a green light to stay exactly the same. You are not here to rescue those who choose not to heal. You can hold space, you can hope, but you cannot open the eyes of someone who chooses blindness. Narcissists don't require more grace, they require accountability. Yet accountability demands a mirror they refuse to look into. They deflect by hiding behind your empathy, turning your compassion into their cover. Real compassion should never ask you to abandon your self-worth. It should never require self-erasure in the name of love. In a narcissist's hands, your kindness is not medicine. It becomes their weapon of choice. You are not their redeemer, and your heart cannot fix what they refuse to acknowledge. At first, giving feels good. It feels natural. You see their potential, the charm, the flashes of vulnerability, the glimpses of the person you believe they could be. You tell yourself that if you love them patiently, consistently, unconditionally, they will eventually recognize your worth and return your love. But with a narcissist, there is no reciprocity, only consumption. They don't receive your kindness with gratitude. They absorb it as entitlement. What once felt like a gift becomes something they believe they're owed, and no matter how much you give, it's never enough. They don't stop to notice your efforts, because in their mind, your sacrifices are not extraordinary, they are expected. They believe they're entitled to your energy, your time, your compassion, without ever having to earn it. In the beginning, you don't even realize how much of yourself you're giving away. You make excuses for them. They're just going through something, or they don't really mean what they say. But slowly, the weight of it all catches up with you. The exhaustion creeps in. The resentment builds silently. And the realization dawns that the love you're giving isn't being cherished. It's being demanded. You start shifting your own identity just to keep the peace. You soften your voice so they won't get defensive. You hide your sadness so they won't feel guilty. You carry their burdens without hesitation, even as they ignore yours completely. And the more you bend, the more they expect, without pause, without thanks, without acknowledgement of what it's costing you. They never stop to ask if you're tired, if you're hurting, if you need anything at all, because in their world, your needs don't exist. Every time you set a boundary, they inch past it. Every doubt you express is dismissed or turned against you, and when you finally begin to pull back just to reclaim a small piece of yourself, they accuse you of being selfish, distant, cold. They don't see your exhaustion as a sign that something is wrong. They see it as a problem that you should fix by giving more. You tell yourself just a little longer, maybe they'll see, maybe they'll understand. But that day doesn't come, because A narcissist never stops taking until you stop giving. As long as you're willing to sacrifice, they will be more than willing to let you. They'll never say you've done enough. They'll never step in and offer support. To them, love isn't about balance, it's about control. And as long as you continue pouring yourself into them, they will continue to take, without a second thought for how empty it leaves you. One day you wake up and realize the person you've been fighting so hard for has never once fought for you. That the love you've offered so freely was never met with gratitude, only expectation. And in that moment, you finally understand. With a narcissist, giving is not a mutual act. It's a bottomless demand, a one-sided transaction, a well that will never be filled. Boundaries are not walls. They're not punishments. They're not signs of cruelty or coldness. They are the sacred lines that define where you end and someone else begins. They exist to protect your peace, your energy, and your identity. But when you're entangled with a narcissist, setting boundaries feels almost impossible. The moment you draw a line, they push against it. The moment you reclaim space, they accuse you of being distant. The moment you express a need, they make you feel guilty for having one. And before long, your boundaries aren't boundaries at all. They're negotiations, constantly shifting to accommodate someone who refuses to respect them. To a narcissist, boundaries are not expressions of self-respect. They are threats. Limits disrupt their control, and so they challenge them at every turn. When you say, this is not okay, they don't reflect. They test you. They gaslight you into questioning your decision. They label you as selfish, dramatic, uncaring. Not because you've done something wrong, but because you've dared to protect yourself. They benefit from your lack of boundaries. They thrive when you bend, when you appease, when you sacrifice to avoid conflict. The moment you say enough, they act as though you've betrayed them. Not because you have, but because they can no longer use you the way they once did. They will test you subtly at first. A dismissive joke, a request you've already said no to, a jab disguised as sarcasm. And if you let those moments slide, they escalate. Because to them, limits are only real when they serve their agenda. They will demand freedom while restricting yours. They'll expect your respect while giving you none. Each time you let a line be crossed, they see it not as compassion, but as consent. Eventually you realize boundaries are not optional, they are essential. They are the only thing standing between you and the endless exhaustion of being used. They are what separates self-respect from self-abandonment. They are how you remind yourself that your needs matter, even when someone else refuses to see them. The hardest part about setting boundaries with a narcissist isn't creating them. It's surviving the backlash. Because once you assert yourself, they will do everything in their power to tear those walls down. They will guilt trip. They will manipulate. They will play the victim. They may even lash out. They will challenge your strength, hoping that your discomfort will make you fold. And if you've spent years accommodating their every mood and demand, the pressure can feel unbearable. But here's what you must remember. Your boundaries don't require their approval. They don't need to like them, agree with them, or understand them. Because boundaries aren't for them. They are for you. And the moment you stop waiting for their permission to protect your peace, you begin reclaiming a power they hoped you'd never recognize. Every time you stand firm, every time you say this isn't okay, you aren't pushing them away. You are pulling yourself back from a life that drained you. You're not hurting them, you're saving yourself. And in that process, you begin to understand something profound. Boundaries were never about shutting people out. They were always about keeping yourself whole. Love is meant to be a two-way exchange, a balance of giving and receiving, a quiet rhythm where both people feel seen, valued, and safe. But when you love a narcissist, that rhythm doesn't exist. You give and they take. You bend and they push further. You pour and they collect without ever thinking to give back. And no matter how much you give, it's never enough to satisfy them because satisfaction was never the goal. Control was. In a healthy relationship, love flows in both directions. It's a mutual effort, a shared responsibility to know and protect the connection. But with a narcissist, there is no shared effort. There is only expectation on you. You're expected to be available, accommodating, unshakably loyal. And the moment you ask for the same in return, you're told you're unreasonable, too needy, too emotional. At first, you don't recognize the imbalance. You make excuses. They're just under stress. They just need more time. You believe that if you're patient enough, strong enough, forgiving enough, they'll eventually meet you halfway. But what you don't realize is that your love has slowly turned into a performance, a desperate, ongoing audition for affection that never comes. You find yourself walking on eggshells, rewording your feelings, repressing your needs, changing yourself, not because you want to, but because you think it will finally make them show up for you. But no matter how much you adapt, the outcome remains the same. Because a narcissist doesn't want balance, they want submission. They don't want partnership, they want power. They're not interested in what they can give, only in what they can take. And the more exhausted you become, the more they blame you for it. They tell you you're too sensitive, too dramatic, too much. They twist your fatigue into a flaw. They frame your emotional depletion as proof that you are the problem, not the fact that they've been draining you all along. And for a while, you believe them. You wonder if maybe love really is supposed to feel like this. Like struggle, like sacrifice, like endless striving. But deep down, a part of you knows better. Because true love doesn't leave you emotionally bankrupt. It doesn't silence your needs. It doesn't ask you to keep giving just to earn scraps of kindness in return. And the longer you stay in that one-sided dynamic, the more you lose yourself, piece by piece. You start to forget who you were before them. You start to believe that maybe your needs are too much, that maybe love really does mean putting yourself last. But the truth is this, the exhaustion you feel isn't just from loving them. It's from constantly trying to earn a love that should have been given freely. It's from giving to someone who never planned to give back. And no matter how deeply you care, no matter how long you've been entangled, you cannot create a healthy relationship alone, because when one person refuses to carry their share of the weight, you are left holding it all. You deserve more than burnout. You deserve more than apologies with no change. You deserve more than temporary affection that only shows up when it benefits them. Love should not be something you constantly fight for. It should be something that flows toward you as naturally as you give it. Because real love, real partnership is not built on one person endlessly sacrificing. Stop explaining yourself. There comes a moment when you realize that no matter how many times you explain, no matter how gently you express yourself, no matter how patient, calm, or careful you are with your words, the person you're talking to isn't actually trying to understand you. A narcissist doesn't listen to learn. They listen to twist, to deflect, to maintain control of the narrative. You pour your heart out, hoping they'll see your pain, only to watch them turn the conversation back onto you. You say, "This hurt me," and suddenly they're the victim. You try to set a boundary, and suddenly you're the one being cold or unfair. Every conversation feels like a war you never wanted to fight, because all you really wanted was to be heard. At first, you keep trying. You think, maybe if I say it differently, more calmly, more clearly, they'll finally understand. You analyze every word before you say it. You practice responses in your mind. You prepare for every way they might twist your meaning. You try logic, you try emotion, you try silence, but nothing works, because the goal was never understanding. Their goal is to win. They don't want reconciliation. They want control over the story, over you. They'll drag conversations out for hours, not to find solutions, but to exhaust you into surrender. They'll gaslight you, making you doubt what you said, how you said it, whether it even happened at all. They'll pick apart your tone, your timing, your intention, until you are the one apologizing for even bringing it up. And in time, you start to believe the problem is you. That if only you could explain it just right, they would finally listen. But here's the truth. They already know how you feel. They just don't care enough to change. They don't misunderstand you by accident. They misunderstand you on purpose. Because as long as they can keep you explaining, defending, and proving yourself, they can keep you distracted. They can keep you trapped in the cycle of trying to earn basic decency from someone who was never willing to offer it. You start to see the pattern. They shift blame. They dodge responsibility. They turn every conversation into a mirror, one where you are always the problem. And then it hits you. Explaining yourself to someone who has no intention of understanding you isn't communication, it's entrapment. Because when someone truly cares, you don't have to fight to be heard. You don't have to over-explain or beg for kindness. You don't have to rehearse your pain or defend your humanity. And the moment you stop explaining yourself to someone who refuses to listen, you free yourself. You step out of the endless loop of trying to prove your worth to someone who was never willing to see it. For most of your life, you were taught that putting others first makes you a good person, that love means sacrifice, that being understanding means enduring mistreatment, that patience means waiting for someone else to finally change. You believe that if you just held on long enough, if you gave enough, if you loved hard enough, they would see your worth. But no one told you the cost of constantly choosing someone else over yourself, because that's not love. That's self-abandonment. A narcissist expects to be your priority always. Their needs come first. Their emotions come first. Their chaos becomes your responsibility. You start rearranging your life to suit theirs, making excuses for them, silencing your needs so theirs can be louder. And every time you try to reclaim space for yourself, just a little room to breathe, they make you feel guilty, as if taking your own soul is a betrayal. At first you believe it. You tell yourself this is what love looks like. That compromise is part of commitment. And yes, real love does require compromise, but it also requires balance, mutual effort, reciprocity. With a narcissist, the compromise is always yours. The apologies are always yours. The adjusting, the forgiving, the overgiving, it's always on you. And the moment you stop bending, they say you are the problem. They say you've changed. They accuse you of being cold, distant, ungrateful. They'll remind you of everything they've done for you, not out of care, but to keep you emotionally indebted. They will turn your kindness into a weapon, your loyalty into a leash, your fear of being alone into the chain that keeps you tied. And for a while, it works. Because losing them feels terrifying, until one day it doesn't. Because one day the exhaustion becomes heavier than the fear. You stop worrying about how they'll react when you start choosing yourself. You stop needing their validation. You stop seeking permission to exist fully. And you realize something powerful. Your peace is worth more than their approval. Your happiness is worth more than their comfort. Your healing matters more than their control. The world may have told you that choosing yourself is selfish, that self-care is rebellion, that boundaries make you too much. But the truth? Choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. It's the beginning of wholeness. It means no longer setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. It means no longer pouring into people who only leave you empty. It means finally giving yourself the love you've been begging someone else to offer. And the moment you choose yourself, everything begins to shift. The guilt fades, the fear loosens its grip, and you realize something beautiful. The love you were searching for was never in their hands. It was within you, waiting to be reclaimed. Every time you put them first, you abandoned yourself. Every time you let them cross a boundary, you betrayed your own inner voice. And every time you gave another piece of yourself to keep them satisfied, you were the one left feeling hollow. Because narcissists don't just take your time or your energy. They take your light, they take your confidence, they take your reflection until you can barely recognize the person in the mirror. But then comes the turning point. One day the exhaustion outweighs the fear. You stop asking, what will they think? You stop wondering, will they still want me if I stand up for myself? And instead you start asking, what do I need? What brings me peace? What would it look like to choose me for once? And that moment is everything. That's the moment you reclaim your power. You realize that your well-being no longer depends on their approval, that your survival doesn't require you to keep shrinking, that your worth isn't defined by how much you can endure, but by how deeply you can love yourself. The world conditioned you to believe that self-sacrifice is love, that if you hurt quietly, if you wait long enough, someone will finally change. But love, real love, does not ask you to suffer to prove it's real. Choosing yourself doesn't mean you're bitter. It doesn't mean you're cold, unloving, or closed off. It means you've stopped giving away your soul just to be chosen by someone who was never willing to meet you halfway. It means you're done explaining, done shrinking, done mistaking pain for purpose. It means you're no longer pouring into people who only take. You're no longer tolerating emotional starvation in the name of hope. You're no longer staying quiet to keep the peace that never really existed. Choosing yourself means finally giving yourself the love you spent years begging someone else to offer. And the moment you do, everything changes. The guilt fades, the shame dissolves, the fear transforms, and you begin to understand you were never asking for too much. You were simply asking the wrong person. The love you've been seeking isn't out there waiting to be earned. It's within you, ready to rise. So if you're watching this and something inside you is stirring, listen to it. That voice, that ache, that knowing, it's your soul asking to be seen again. You don't owe anyone endless explanations, unlimited chances, or your silence in exchange for their comfort. What you owe is to yourself, to honor your truth, to protect your peace, to choose you. Because the moment you stop trying to fix someone else and start healing yourself, that is the moment your life begins to change. You are not here to be drained. You are here to be loved. And that love starts with you.